the Toledo Police Department. 23 of those 32 officers have been killed by gunfire in the history of the Toledo Police Department. There is one canine line of duty death. That was Falco back in 2015. Obviously, we've talked a lot today about Officer Anthony Dia, who was killed back in July. Before that, it's going to be 14 years in less than a month that Officer Keith Dressel was killed in North Toledo in the line of duty. He had kind of intercepted a drug deal, and he was killed, like I said, almost 14 years ago. But before that, it was 1970, Officer William Miscannon. So it has been more frequent than, like I said, the chief was regretting that he had to obviously do this again and hope that he never had to.
Well, the other thing too, Melissa, we've kind of not touched on it today, but the other thing that this has taught us this week, and hopefully 2021, and we've heard people say this, that this year is a call to action as far as what we have seen, and the officers asking for more protections, and the chief, we're talking shields, things of that nature, and the chief has said that they will look into that. The mayor has said they will look into that, but it also opens up the avenue of mental health services, because the other person lost in this was a 27-year-old by the name of Christopher Harris, the one who shot those fatal shots and was then killed by police in return fire of that armed standoff. But hoping that this is a call to action as far as mental health services are concerned around Northwest Ohio as well.
Yeah, obviously the chief and the mayor expressed anger about some of the shortfalls in the legal system.
Some of the most emotional moments from them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You could hear the anger in their voices, and I think as community members or media watching this, the question is, how can a person whose family says is mentally ill possess legally obtained guns? And so this is reigniting the mental health conversation and the gun conversation. And the mayor said at the time, 8 days ago it's been since Officer Stalker was killed in the line of duty, the mayor said, we need to redouble our efforts at the state level or federally to make sure our officers can know when they encounter a situation. If there's someone with documented mental illness who's been through the system, I want our officers to know that. He does not want HIPAA regulations standing in the way. And then we also contacted Paula Hicks Hudson, who is a former Toledo mayor herself. She is now representing District 44, and also Michael Sheehy, who represents District 46. Both talked about these common sense gun safety measures, which they believe most people want to see. And that is addressing the access to deadly weapons by people who should not have them in their possession to begin with.
Now, we don't know if this young man who you're seeing right there, he is with his guardian, his adult guardian there standing watch.
It looks like he has his hand over his heart.
It does, showing his ultimate respect. Who knows? This young man may end up being the next Toledo police officer here in a few years' time. But out there in front of Christ the King, not too far from Harvest Lane on Monroe Street, we are starting to see, Melissa, the procession enter Toledo Memorial Park.
Our Emma Henderson is standing by live there. Emma, tell us what you're seeing right now.
That's right. I'm going to be a little bit quiet because there are a lot of people here trying to pay their respects. There are quite a few officers who are just starting to drive by. We can now see the procession. I think the initial officers who are stopping here to really help organize things just pulled over. And then as you can see right here, I believe this is the very beginning of what, as we've seen, is going to be a very long and impressive procession in honor of Officer Brandon Stalker. Now, I do want to mention I just spoke to Max Tickmeyer, the kid who raised $13,000 this weekend from his hot cocoa stand. He is out here standing in front of the cemetery as well today. He said that he wanted to be here to honor the officer in person. You see the hearse just drove by. I imagine these are the family members. So we're just going to be quiet, take a minute, and let you see all of these officers at attention and all of the community members who came to pay their respects today.
Emma Henderson, remarkable that she caught up with little Max. He was camped out all weekend. We've seen so many instances of good in the community as a result of this. People like Max, just 8 years old. He sold hot cocoa over the weekend at a stand in front of his home in West Toledo. The Toledo police officers stopped by and the chief did. And the chief said he had a great morning at Max's hot cocoa stand. He's an amazing young man. And as Emma mentioned, $13,000 donated to the Stalker family over the weekend. And when I saw Max on the news, I had to say, wow, thanks to his mom. I mean, she was there teaching him about the respect that we should pay to Toledo police officers. And it's not his first go around. He did this 6 months ago as well. And I also want to point out too, there is a local woodworker. His name is Rob Moore, a lifelong Toledoan. Again, second time he's done this, but he created a memorial bench for Officer Stalker. He said, you know, this really broke my heart. Another young kid killed. And he says, I have children older than this officer. It was so sad to see he's starting a family. The Toledo Police Department is so important to me, and I give back as much as I can. He cuts every piece of these benches by hand, sands them down. It's a hobby he's turned into a business. After the pandemic actually eliminated his job. So I've just been so touched by seeing all of this community support. And we're seeing it right now.
Absolutely. And we want to check in one more time with Kaylee Kirby out at UT Savage Arena outside there as the procession has made its final jog to the final resting place for Officer Stalker.
Yeah, Jeff, the scene here is definitely quite drastic to what we saw 20, 30 minutes ago. At that time, there were lights lined all along Douglas Road. There were the hearse coming by me. Now all of that is gone. The parking lot, as you've mentioned multiple times, has entirely cleared out as that procession has made its way to Toledo Memorial Park. So definitely a different scene here. You know, not having any more cars, not even seeing lights or hearing people talking. It's definitely changed as they've made their way to Toledo Memorial Park to lay Officer Brandon Stalker to rest.
Kaylee, I just, as we let you go for a final time here today, I wanted to go back out to her real quick. Can you kind of sum up for us the emotion of today? Have you had a chance to just kind of pause, take it in, and what you experienced out there?
Yeah, Jeff, it's definitely been very emotional, very quiet on my end. You know, seeing these officers and Toledo Police, Toledo Fire, everyone from all over Ohio and Michigan make their way here. Very somber, but, you know, a lot of them nodded their heads, said thank you, and were, you know, happy to be paying their respects. I did talk to a few officers who said that, you know, it was their duty to come down here and to support their brother in blue, despite what happened, that this is what police officers do. And so for me, it was emotional because I'm right here and I'm right at the ground of all of it. And so before my life hit, before I actually had started tearing up, just talking about seeing the hearse come by and things like that. So I'm going to bring it
We
back to
feel
you.
you.
Okay.
We feel you, and the community feels what you're feeling as well. And listen, it is easy to empathize with this family and these police officers. And you know, part of this processional, part of these services, as you can see, just someone being comforted there. I mean, this is kind of closure for us all. It's healing for the family that the community comes out. And how can you not be grateful to this young man and all of these officers who are called to put their lives on the line every single day? I don't know that we can all say that we could do what they do.
Melissa, we have had so many moments over the last year to put ourselves, to empathize, to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, understanding the loss that they have felt with COVID, understanding that these families in the Toledo Police Department, we heard it through the poems, we heard it through the songs, that they don't know. Every night they go to work. Some of our best friends, they are in law enforcement, and we talk to them. They understand the thin blue line, the support, the reverence for these jobs that they go to each and every day, and the respect that they have. We also have our Carla Byron out there along Monroe Street. Carla, as we I guess, close down for the day, and this celebration that will be private once they get into the cemetery. Your final thoughts on what you've seen, the respect that you've seen out of the students, out of the teachers there at Christ the King School.
Yeah, and also the respect from all of the law enforcement vehicles that are just passing by right now. I mean, I've seen police cruiser after police cruiser from across Ohio, across Michigan, some agencies I don't even recognize. But back to your point, Jeff, the students from Christ the King, the middle schoolers, is about 90 kids who are standing out here right now with an American flag. If you can show them right now, they are holding an American flag with their hands over their hearts. I've been watching them just as the police cruisers have been going by. They've just been quiet, just taking this all in. And I believe some of them now, they've been standing out here for about an hour. They're starting to move them back in. But I know that this was a very touching moment for them. And I am hoping to speak with one of the students who has been standing out here just to get his thoughts and his perspective on this day. And it's really been incredible to see that despite the weather, people have taken the time out of their day to pay their respects to a hero. And this is what a hero's send-off looks like. And I hope that this has been impactful for these students at Christ the King today.
Carla Byron reporting live, and I think it's a lesson not only in community and what community means and being part of a community, but also your civic duty and responsibility. I mean, so many lessons all wrapped up in one for any children out there today.
Well, I was also going to say, and not to be flip, but those children there, having gone to Christ the King, I know the reverence that we are taught each Thursday at Mass, that we need to be respectful. So those kids know the role, definitely.
And also, we cannot forget all of the condolences that have been coming in online. If you've been following along this morning with our coverage, the hashtag we're using is hashtag Officer Stalker. Our Amanda Faye has been gathering all of those sentiments that have been coming in throughout the morning. Amanda, you found people who are strangers, other people who knew Officer Stalker personally.
Yeah, absolutely, Melissa. It's been actually very challenging kind of picking from the hundreds and hundreds that have come in. A lot of people, just expressing their condolences, sending their prayers and their thoughts. And here's a couple more that I do want to share with you before we leave today. Donald R. Lockhart says, our community has lost a young man at the beginning of his life, a life that he had chosen to serve and protect our community. Heidi Winiger writes, I worked with him a few years ago when he was 19, 20 years old. We shared a lot of laughs, and I'm heartbroken. What a wonderful young man, father, and fiance. He was so helpful, kind, mature, and patient. He will be deeply missed. And Chelsea Hammer says, to become a law enforcement officer takes bravery and selflessness to a level undeniably great. Officer Stalker will be remembered as a hero. Thank you for your ultimate sacrifice. I send prayers and so many wishes of comfort and peace to his family and friends during this difficult time. So again, these are just some of the condolences and messages that you have sent us so far throughout the day. There have been hundreds of them, and we thank you for sharing those with us today. And you can continue to do so on our Facebook and Twitter pages by using that hashtag Officer Stalker. You could see some of them here scrolling at the bottom of your screen as well. And we do want to pass those along with the Toledo Police Department. I'm sure they will appreciate hearing your words today. Back to you guys.
And boy, and I'm going to share another one, a name from the past that just popped up for me. He and his son and I went to school together, and he is a former Toledo police officer, and he just wants to say thank you, and thank you to the WTOL team for the coverage of the funeral today, because there are people who are watching they may not be out there physically today, but they are paying their respects on the other side of the screen, and that is why we are doing what we're doing and have been doing so since 9 o'clock this morning.
And that is one good thing about social media, is that you can be here even when you're not here, and you can share those very important messages for the family and the community. One of those messages came from the mayor, whose job it is to lead the city in this time of sorrow and sadness through this ordeal. And
once again for him.
Once again, and be someone that people can look to for comfort. And he provided some of that comfort this morning at the funeral. So let's hear right now from Toledo Mayor Wade Kapsik-Kavich.
I don't know why it is that it always seems that the best among us are taken from us. I suppose there might be some truth to that old adage. I suppose it might be the same reason that when we're walking through a garden, we always pick the most beautiful flowers. Maybe God wants to be surrounded by beauty and greatness too. I don't know. I do know, though, that while every man dies, not every man really lives. Brandon did, though, because to really live, you have to love. You have to have the capacity for love. What is life, after all, without love?
And the mayor just giving some sentiment, and the chief said as well, this is an unanswered prayer. I didn't want this to happen, but God has a plan. And I think we're all trying to make sense of why this happened and why Officer Stalker was taken on that day. And I think that the mayor provided a more positive picture as to what happened here.
Absolutely. Not easy to do, but he did such a nice job of it. We're going to check in once again with our Emma Henderson, who is out in Sylvania as the last parts of the procession start to make their way into Toledo Memorial.
It's definitely an incredibly powerful scene here right now. It's really starting to, I think, hit everyone here, just the magnitude of what's happening. We saw the hearse already turn into the cemetery. We saw the SWAT vehicles turn into the cemetery. As we know, many of those SWAT officers were likely on scene with Officer Stalker during his end of watch. It's really silent out here, except for the occasional lights and sirens that are coming from the procession. I'm going to get out of the way so you can see that. It's been going on for several minutes. You're seeing police departments. There's Pemberville. There's Parma. You're seeing these police departments from all over, and it seems like an endless stream of support and love, these lights and sirens, all of these officers coming in to pay their final respects to someone who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And like we said, this has been going on for several minutes, and we still cannot even see the end of the procession in sight. It's an incredibly powerful moment for everyone who's standing here. And you can really see it. It's starting to take its toll on the crowd. People are starting to really realize what this moment means. This is the end. We are starting to say goodbye. And as they all turn into the cemetery, that's really what this signifies. This is the final goodbye. Jeff and Mel.
Emma Henderson reporting live for us there as we said, the rest of the procession getting in there and the rest of the service is part of a private ceremony that will take place in there for Brandon Stalker.
And we, again, learned so much about Officer Stalker from his family today, and really the people who spoke on behalf of his fiance, Ashley, and particularly his mother, Cosette. Their pastor there at the North Point Church of his mom said, a parent should never imagine bearing a child. He will always be with me in my thoughts, memory, heart, and through my grandchildren. And Cosette Stalker promised her grandchildren and Ashley, Officer Stalker's fiance, I will be there with them until the day that she dies. Yeah. And so I think that's her pledge there to kind of take over, as the police department has said they will take over caring for this family. And you see so many of them out there right now in the snowy conditions. Toledo police officers who are paying their respects to one of their own today.
Even Lieutenant Lenhart said at one point, we're going to be supporting you 500 strong. She may have said 540 strong, whatever number she put out there, but just the fact that the Toledo Police Department is there for you, I think that goes hand in hand with Toledo Fire and Rescue as well. You talked about Cosette, the mother, even Lance Corporal Noah Zimmerman getting up there, the friend, the almost brother, calling her the rock of the family and how important Brandon was in her life.
And I know we've reflected on this throughout this week, and I wonder if people are reflecting on this throughout social media and who are on that parade route right now, that processional route, and that is, would you lay your life down for someone else? I think people inherently ask themselves that question when they see this young man's sacrifice. And one of the scriptures, this family obviously believes in God and Christ, and one of the passages that was read from the Bible today was by their pastor, who read John 15:13, "There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends." And he pointed out that Jesus said this to provide an example as to us as to what love really looks like, and that is to sacrifice for the life of another.
Again and again, we have heard about Brandon Stalker's contagious smile. In fact, Lance Corporal Noah Zimmerman calling it a big contagious Stalker smile during his words there on stage at Savage Arena earlier. His spirit, his personality, it was infectious. You heard that from Chief George Krall talking about this young man who had leadership in his bones, had leadership in his spirit, and those are things you don't have to teach, he said. His performance reports always getting high marks, being called a solid officer, and just a show of the love, the passion that this young man had for his community, the community in which he served, and was even a better role model for the young people at Monac Elementary and for the children in his household.
And his pastor said that Brandon was the kind of police officer we need today. And speaking of the support, you know, the chief has also been vocal on social media throughout the past week or so, and he says that he feels this support from you, from Toledoans, from people who've reached out to him from Michigan, all across the country. He's been getting phone calls and letters, and it just really means a lot to the officers to know that while what happened was tragic, they have support out there. And we are gathering messages to send to the Toledo Police Department. They can feel it out there along the procession route, and I think that's really important in helping with this grieving process that they go through, because they don't get to just separate this, Jeff. They have to go out right after this funeral service, and they have to work the streets of Toledo while they carry this in their hearts.
That's a great point. We also want to remind you there at home, and we've had tons of people, as Melissa said, reaching out to us on social media, but if you have the ability to donate and you find that you have a calling to donate to this young man's life, the Toledo Police Federal Credit Union has offered that opportunity to you. 100% of those donations go to family. There's also a GoFundMe account and memorial clothing fundraisers. You can find links to all this information on our website, folks, at WTOL.com. And we wanted to point out those opportunities to you as well today, because I know we've had questions about that. Melissa, as we start to wrap up here today.
Yeah, we are wrapping up, and of course you can catch our coverage tonight at 5 o'clock, our full coverage, and you can continue sending your condolences and follow along with the WTOL 11 News app. We do want to just say thank you to the Toledo Police Department. This is the final call for Officer Brandon Stalker, but there have been 31 others in the history of the department. Yeah, and we want to also say thank you for spending some time with us here today. For all of us here at WTOL, we appreciate it.
The final radio call for Officer Brandon Stalker.
Attention all crews, McKenna Stalker has an important announcement to make. I love you, Dad, and I got you 610. Here's clear.
Dispatch to Unit 111. Dispatch to Unit 111. Officer Brandon Stalker on all call. Attention all units. Officer Brandon Stalker, ID 2789, has answered his last call. Officer Stalker was appointed to the Toledo Police Department on July 31st, 2018. He answered his final call on January 18, 2021. From the entire family at the Toledo Police Department, Officer Brandon Stalker, you and your family will remain in our hearts, thoughts, and prayers. The air is clear.